I am here.
Yes, you must be using Windows 10 as well.
I am all moderned up.
Moderned up.
That's how the kids speak now.
Yeah, I was just trying to get used to the docking.
Oh yeah, I'm still not really got into that.
It's interesting when you do full screen. It's out of full screen now.
Just I've got it on a few machines now actually, but this big clunking laptop as well.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to.
Right, let's
Full screen as well. Yes, once you've got it full screen, you can't dock it, can you?
No. Have you tried to set a picture password on it as well? That's fun.
No, I haven't tried.
No. I do like the fact you can still shrink things down and they kind of go into the traditional. You can shrink things right down to the side of the screen, and they kind of shrink down as if they were, kind of the original thin snap view.
Yeah, they don't always do that.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. Talk about it. Let's actually have a show, shall we?
I know, actually, we do this because we enjoy doing it, like talking to each other. But I suppose we should record it as well.
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
Right, just let me.
See if I can get the chat room up on my Lumia.
Some weeks Skype changes its volume. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's different. I like how it just likes to keep you on my toes and keep it off.
Yeah,
a different issue each week. It seems fine, but it's just. I'm just gonna try and adjust it out. This is speaking. Right. I don't think there's much else I can do. Some weeks your audio comes through really loud. Another
is that
week,
mine?
Well, both, I think. Sometimes, some weeks I turn it down, and some weeks I have to turn it up. Anyway, it's recording, so we'll leave it at that. Jason and Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. I'll warn you now, I've got a really bad winter cold cough thing, so if I keep going silent, it's because I've gone on mute while I cough.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
I'm glad we're recording over Skype.
Yes,
absolutely, yeah. Now, we got going very quick tonight, and that's because we're all super efficient and got straight into Windows 10.
Yeah, we've turned it up to 10.
We have. The heat is on.
Yeah, so, well, we've got a few things to talk about. We're going to talk about Plex, a bit of media browser, VLC for Windows, and a few other bits and pieces. But obviously, the big thing since last week was the release of the technical preview for Windows 10. So, look, we should talk about that. So first, have you got Windows 10 and have you got it installed?
I have eventually. Had a few hoops to jump through, but yeah, I mean it's a very early release, so I had some issues with doing an upgrade. But to be honest, it's my laptop which has got Hyper-V and all sorts of stuff installed, so I'm not terribly shocked by that. And also, I've got very limited space on the C drive, which I think is probably another problem.
Yeah, I had that problem as well. You really do need some space to do the install, to do an upgrade. Although I have to say the upgrade went very smoothly. I've done it on my main living room PC, the one which powers the big screen, and that's went really well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing lucky for me, when I tried 3 times, and each time it rolled me back without any impact. So that was certainly quite impressive. But I think the only way I could really free up enough space was to remove Office. But that's one of my few kind of desktop applications, which kind of meant the upgrade was a bit pointless.
Yeah, if there's the one thing that you do use, then yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually did a clean install, but I think I actually I tweeted out that, I mean, I cheated slightly because it's my work machine, so any customers that I work for have all got their own VM. So it's a slight cheat, but I have to say, I mean, a combination of, we talked about it before, Windows 8 settings sync, OneDrive and OneDrive for Business. It was just one of the cleanest, quickest, most smoothest clean installs I've done in a long, long time.
Yes, I agree. Go on,
Yeah.
Gary, what were your
I was
experience?
going to say I did a clean install on one of my other PCs as well, and that I have to say that was really smooth, and very, very quick. The upgrade did take a little bit longer, but one thing I didn't actually notice is when I finished the upgrade, I actually had more free space than I started with.
Oh, right, that's interesting. I guess that's evolution of the operating system.
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with the 8.1 was that if you did a clean install, you could do that sort of compressed image, but I don't think you get that option, do you, with Windows 10 yet?
Not yet. Well, I've not seen it yet anyway.
Yeah.
So.
But even so, that's good that you've got a slight.
Yeah, it's about I gained about 1.5 gigs, which is not peanuts.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, it does seem that way, isn't it? I mean, I think Windows 7 had a smaller footprint and Windows 8 had a smaller footprint. It's certainly, I guess there's no media center, so.
Or is there?
Or is there? Yes.
We'll come back to that.
The PVR that refuses to die.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Gary, you got good experience with your install?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the install went smooth. I think obviously I lost the media center on the install through. I haven't put it back actually. I know some people have, but I want to try it as close to what they want me to try it as possible. I had a few apps didn't reinstall, which was interesting. I had to manually reinstall those. But yeah, generally everything went really, really smoothly. The only thing it did do to me was completely mess up my speakers. the sound output, it just didn't get right, because I run with dual screens, but it's actually one of the screens is just an HDMI output for audio, because the only way to fool it into doing HDMI audio only, and it didn't seem to like that. One thing I did notice during the update, which really threw me for a while, I thought it locked up completely. The disk drive was flashing away, and there was nothing on the screen at all. On either screen for about 2 hours. Just completely blank, and then it came back and it was all done. but I almost did reboot at that point, so I think they probably need to make sure they do give a little bit more feedback.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Patience paid off.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, went very smoothly. Everything's installed, everything's running. All my rather esoteric apps I run on it are running. So, I had one which I had to put in Windows 8 compatibility mode, but other than that, everything seems to be going really well. So yeah, I'm very impressed with that bit of it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I actually do. I've done 2 installs, because I initially installed it into a VM just because I wanted to make sure that the Hyper-V service was still there. So I did that, and then did a clean install. The main difference I've noticed is it didn't prompt me for a machine name, so I ended up with the kind of default Windows machine name, but I just renamed it and away it went.
Well, my experiences are pretty similar, really. Like you, I saw that I didn't get a machine name, which is a little bit strange. But yeah, I installed it on Hyper-V, got it up and running on that, and I thought, I'll try it on one of my machines. So actually, I ended up with a couple of machines. There's a spare machine I have at work, which I use for testing stuff, and I installed it on that, and actually it worked really well. A clean install. It's a little Atom box with 2 gig of RAM, but it actually works really well, much faster than the Windows 8 install that was on there before. Now, whether that's because it's a clean install and there's nothing on it yet, but it seems to work very well. But I also installed it on this laptop here for the benefit of the YouTube and viewers. You can see it's a HP, where are we? Pavilion. Circa 2008, something like that. It's got a Windows Vista sticker on it, with a Centrino processor. It's actually the machine we used to record the podcast on up until fairly recently, and that had Vista on it, and then it had Windows 7 installed on it. It never had an 8 on it, but it's running on here now, and it's working really well actually. Again, it's fast from a clean install. No issues with the speed of it. So the installation side of it is, no problems at all. Works very well, nice, smooth. Actually, Wi-Fi key, and I don't think there's that much difference from the Windows 8 install, really.
No, it feels a bit like 8.3 in that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I have noticed, and it's actually caused me a problem yesterday, because I've got which I must get around to sorting out. I've got a dodgy connection between my fan and my CPU in my PC I've got here, and it runs a bit hot. And it's been running on the edge for a few years almost. And within Windows 8, it was staying about 4 or 5 degrees below where I liked it to rise. But with 10, sorry, Freudian slip. It's running about 4.5 degrees higher than it was before. And I'm looking at it, it looks like it's just more CPU activity. So I think it's using a bit more CPU, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, isn't it? So
Yeah.
all that optimization hasn't been done. But the one thing I can't get used to is I click this little flag in the corner. This weird menu opens. It's really jarring. I don't know what to do with it.
It's funny. I haven't actually used the start menu bit of it. I mean, I've got start menu on there, but I haven't actually used the bit to the left at all. I've used the bit to the right, which has got the old start apps on, but not the bit to the left. So it's a bit. But I know people want it there, so I understand the reason for bringing it back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I've said many times that when I'm using my laptop, which isn't a touch screen, I've got all the things I use day to day pinned to the taskbar. So it's very rare that I need to go back to the start screen and similar thing. And it's going to be very rare that I actually open at the start menu, which kind of makes the live tiles a bit redundant.
Yeah, no, I was surprised of how well it works, actually. I've got to say, my overall impression, I mean, we'll talk about the separate areas of it, but my overall impression, especially for an early build, is how well it works and how well the whole thing sits together.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a few gripes, but nothing totally major. It certainly is livable with, and I'm using it day to day, so it is usable. I have had a few crashes, primarily around store apps, Netflix in particular. I don't know if that's to do with the audio side of things, but I've had that crash quite a few times. So, as you say, it's early days, so but nothing too destructive.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking I would just try this out in a VM, but then I thought, if I'm really going to get to grips with this, I need to stick it on a machine. And I know all the advice is not to put it onto a daily machine, but as I say, all the stuff I need to work on is actually all in VM. So I thought I would put it on as the primary operating system, especially having the issues of actually getting a dual boot up and running. So I'm kind of going to use it as my daily driver, and so far it's been absolutely stable and no problems at all. I mean, I've got Office 365 installed, and I've got Hyper-V role running, and so far it's been smooth as anything.
Yeah, I'm definitely impressed with. But then again, as I said, it does feel like 8.3. I mean, it feels like 8 with a skin on it, which hasn't got a start menu. But that's not a bad thing. I mean, 8's a good operating system, and they do seem to have speeded it up. Definitely, things do feel more responsive. Internet Explorer, particularly, is very responsive on my PC. It never used to be. Changing pages seems to be very quick, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, there's a few gripes, mostly around the store apps. I tweeted this out. I find the taskbar at the top very jarring on the store apps, primarily because most of the store apps are designed with one color to fit in full screen, and they're not actually. They don't tend to match what the the color is at the top. And it'd be nice if there was some way they could do it, which it happens when you go to full screen mode, because you get that pop down black one, which is just awesome. And I almost would like that to be the standard for all, not just store apps, but I'd like to have that taskbar disappear. And unless you go up to it, and then you can minimize or whatever, because it's very discoverable. It's not a difficult thing to find. And certainly on store apps, I'd almost like maximize to be full screen. But having said that, it then becomes difficult to actually maneuver a full screen app, and it doesn't drag and drop in the right ways you expect it to do. And so you need both bits. Because I don't know if you've noticed that once you're in a full screen mode, you can't actually do anything with the taskbar at all. You can't snap it to the side or anything like that.
Yeah, you certainly can't. Because I mean, in Windows 8.1 didn't they introduce a snap in the command bar? Yeah,
that would have been nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now.
I don't know if I've seen that or not, but certainly, I mean, I think the other thing which I'm finding frustrating is the snapping. One of the things I used to do an awful lot was have Twitter parked to the left-hand side of my screen and use the rest of the screen, because I've got lots of screen real estate here, and I used to use desktop on the right-hand side of the screen, and I'd still love to be able to do that. And maybe that's something they can add in, but it seems that it's a step. That's one step backwards from the way I was working before.
Yeah. So just looking on my Lumia tablet, and if I using with the keyboard connected, I can use the mouse. If I move the mouse up to the top of the screen, I get in the Mail app, I get the title bar pop down, and then you've got the command, like the icon for the application. If I click that, there's an option. There's two options: split left and split right.
Yeah.
So one thing I did try actually in Windows 10 was actually to see if that, and when you open up the application top left menu using its icon, you just get minimize and close. Now it would, like you say, if they're in full screen, it would be nice to actually still have that snap left, snap right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to see snap brought back in that way. I mean, I like what they're doing with the desktop snap, and I think it needs enhancing a bit. I mean, I think it's quite clever the way it offers you options as to what you want to snap into the view. And
yeah,
like that.
It's quite good, though, isn't
it? But one thing I just wish it had, which obviously with the store app side of thing had, when you snap two windows into place for sort of half screen. What I'd like it to do at that point is then have the middle join between them as being a resize for both of them. Which at the moment that one will, if you try and resize the size, and they overlap, which is not what I want. I want the perceived behaviour we had in 8, where it would actually sort of shrink down on one side and go to the other side, because that's how I use it a lot for a lot of stuff I work on. But other than that, I mean, and you can get that. I mean, obviously you can work that way, and the way it works now is probably more familiar to Windows 7 users, which is obviously seems to be the target market for this, for the enterprises. So, and maybe that'll be an option. And certainly the whole feedback thing allows us to give feedback on it. So
it's quite good, that feedback. It sort of pops up every now and again. Ask you.
Yeah. Sometimes the questions are a bit obscure or a bit difficult to actually work out what they're actually asking. We saw the one today which said, "What do you think of Start?" Well, how easy was Start to use, or something like that? And you think, what did they mean? The Start menu, or do they mean the Start?
Yeah, but a few of those little surveys pop up.
Yeah.
So I mean, like you said, when you hit the start button, it's very familiar from a Windows 7 point of view. So anybody that's coming from 7 will immediately see the programs and the all apps list of the Windows programs. And actually, like you, I think I've probably used it once or twice. Whereas as soon as I find something useful, I pin it. So the machine that I've been using at work, it's my sort of test machine, and while I'm working, I tend to put things on in the background, a bit of music or video or something. So it's that machine that I ended up sort of pinning everything that was useful on there, and I use the start button, but it actually works. The start menu works better in that mode on a desktop than the full Start 8, the Windows 8 touch panel, the full start screen. So actually, it's surprising it does actually work pretty well.
Yeah, I think the thing is you move your mouse a lot less.
Yeah.
Which is the one thing I find. I tend to sit in the bottom left corner of the mouse anyway.
And things still there though. Nothing disappears. I suppose that's what will help.
Yeah. But one thing I do miss is that, and I think you said this, Jason. I used to park on the start screen. When I wasn't using it, I would be parked on the start screen, and therefore all the notifications, everything were visible all the time. And at the moment, I tend not to do that. I tend to park without the start menu up, and I've just got the normal desktop there, and that doesn't work as well. It's not informative. I did see quite a few suggestions about pinning start objects to the desktop.
Yeah, I know Richard Hay on Windows Observer, he had a discussion about that, and I mean that's going back to the old Windows Vista widgets, isn't it? And
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Which again, I kind of made use of those a bit, but I actually tend to find that just my daily work would just cover them up.
Yeah.
And I didn't like. I think you could set it to always on top, but then you kind of lost a bit of screen real estate, and it worked a bit better with 2 monitors. But while I can see their usefulness, I think you just end up with them covered up. So you'd end up with having to minimize all your windows all the time.
Yeah. So I've got the answer to this, and I think it is actually a totally workable answer. Can we have a start menu screensaver?
Ah, yeah, good idea.
Yeah, it shows the live tiles as soon as you move them. the mouse, it disappears unless you click on the live tile and then it opens it up.
That would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
And especially if you could make it move slightly, so you could do plasma burning. That'd be absolutely perfect for me.
Get that feedback in.
I'll write it now.
My first bit of feedback was, why can't I move the search and task switcher icons on the taskbar?
Now that's something else that's new, isn't it? That's, well, you've got two search options now. You've got the search box, which actually, that is the one thing that I must say I kind of miss from 7. Excuse me. That I miss from Windows 7 is you click on the start button, you type in command or whatever, and it opens up. So it's good to see that back, actually.
Yeah.
But the search is kind of a redefined look to the Windows 8 search. It's almost bringing it is the same results it's bringing back, isn't it? It combines web files and apps and everything, but it gives you in a flatter, more web Bing search-like view.
Yeah, it does. It's a bit weird, actually, having the two searches, isn't it?
Mm.
You got search and start menu, and you got search there, and they almost sometimes give very similar results. But,
yeah, I definitely. Well, the search one I definitely want to get rid of, and the task switcher one, I just don't want there. But the one thing I will say that they have got right is, I mean, I kind of start up my first 4 taskbar apps just by holding down the Windows key and pressing 1 through 4.
Yeah.
And fortunately, they haven't numbered the search and task switcher as number 1 and number 2.
Yeah, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it?
But but I would like to move the task switcher, either over to the side or, even maybe have it as, if I want to have it as part of the action center area.
Yeah. To be honest, I never really thought about it. I just, they haven't really bothered me that much. The task switch is quite good as well. It's kind of visual and things keep moving so if you're watching a video of it, that continues, which I think is quite nice.
Yeah, I think the implementation is really well done. I mean, especially the way that it interacts with the multiple desktops, because that's what I always found irritating. I know there used to be, I think there's definitely a Windows XP, and I'm sure there was a Windows Vista Power Tool that introduced for Microsoft multiple desktops, but I just never got on with it because I was just lost where everything was. But I think the multiple desktop view definitely works really well.
Yeah, it does. I think the only thing I find is that if I've got running objects, I'd like to be able to drag them to another desktop in there.
Yeah, actually, I've just created a new desktop, and one thing I've just noticed is the apps that are running are underlined on the new taskbar.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you can still, when you click on them, it takes you back to that desktop that's running them. I quite like that.
Yeah, I like that. I do think there's some really good features on this version.
Sorry, go on, finish it. I'll let you finish.
I was going to say from a developer point of view, I mean, the multiple desktops work well. They don't appear to be sandboxed, unfortunately, so I still can crash things. But that's good. That's good. I mean, the one thing I've found quite difficult is the discovery of PC settings. I've actually ended up pinning it to my start bar, but because obviously you can have it on your.
Yeah, mine's on the start menu.
Yeah, start menu. But I found out, where is that? And I almost wish they'd actually put it in on the right-click menu for the start button now, if we're going to go this way. So we've got the control or integrate control panel and PC settings, and why bother having two?
Yeah, I think control panel is definitely a legacy item now, isn't it? Which leads me on to the point I was going to make, really, is the fact that the biggest difference this has made for desktop and laptops is the Windows Store apps are now useful when you're doing other things. So, for example, Netflix, you can leave Netflix running in a window and still do something else, or you can leave your music open, or you can be working on something and you want to open my Flickr upload and I want to upload a photo. You can open it, and suddenly the store apps are now integrated into the desktop and not totally separate. Yeah,
and I think as I get Snap working with that, I'd be absolutely happy. I mean, I want to see Continuum. I want to see how this is going to work going forward with tablets and things like that. That's one of the reasons I haven't put it on some of my tablet devices yet.
Yeah, I was so tempted to put it on my Encore, but it's only got 16 gigs, so it's not really gonna it's soon gonna fill that up. So I think I'll probably wait for that one. But
Yeah, 'cause I haven't seen any sign of the storage spaces things that we've been rumored, which would probably help work with your uncle.
yeah, exactly, because it's got an SD card.
Yeah.
But no, I've gone from on the desktop machine using the web version of things. So maybe the web Netflix because you could have it in a small window. But now I'm using the store app, so it's a win for the store apps. They've become integrated with the rest of Windows and not a separate thing. I'm not now for tablets. I still don't. We still want to keep that separate, and I want full screen and everything else. But we're talking about desktops, and I think suddenly the apps integrate, so you can make use of the Mail app and you can use the PC settings, and hence why I think the control panel is kind of redundant now, because the PC settings comes in a nice window, and it suddenly works a lot better for me. It gels together really nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I know you can still right mouse click over the the start menu or the Windows flag to get to the old control panel. I wonder if it's going to get slightly confusing if you got both of them there.
I think they'll probably learn the lesson and they won't get rid of the old control panel. But as you can see, when you hit the start button, PC settings is there on the list, and I think that's the way of doing things. And the old control panel will probably stick around, and maybe for a while. Yeah, I think what they've probably learned is that you don't have to remove things. You just make the thing that you want to be obvious, that surfaced at the top, but give people the option. And if they'd had the same option with this start menu with Windows 8, desktop and laptop users wouldn't be complaining. So they broke the rule that they used to have with Windows. I know we talked about this before, haven't we, where I've got Windows 7 users at work who have got Windows 2000 UI because it lets you do that. It's only with 8 they stopped doing that backwards compatibility.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, one interesting that is in that new PC settings is the as well as Windows Update, you've got the preview builds, and I think one of the things that I searched for, not necessarily extensively, but one of the things I was looking for in the release notes was the normal warning about you won't be able to upgrade to the final release, and I didn't see anything on that.
No, I think that it was mentioned somewhere that they're going to keep upgrading this build, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's even if you've upgraded from Windows 8, you potentially maybe as well as getting new preview builds, eventually you would just get updated to the final RTM build, which is interesting. That because we've talked about that this could be the last proper version of Windows, and if it's going to be that serviceable, then that would certainly indicate that's the way they're going to go.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've seen mentioned is the fact that not specifically in this build, but in future builds or even the released versions, there will be an option for administrators, network administrators, system administrators to choose how features get rolled out. So maybe you can keep getting all the latest security fixes, but you don't get the new feature, and you can choose to install that as a separate release. So and control that through Windows Update services or something like that. So having that refresh option and sort of incremental update option is more apparent in this, and perhaps that is the way they're going to do it.
The one thing I'm noticing when I'm kind of clicking around and kind of looking at the interface while we talk is I keep having to remember to not click the X on Skype.
Yeah.
If you go quiet, that'll be it.
Yeah. I'm seriously having to unlearn drag down. That really that's been such a nightmare to unlearn.
Yeah, I mean it works. It's not full screen, doesn't it? But when it's full screen, then you can't grab and drag.
Well, you can drag down. No, it's more the drag down to close, because I do that all the time, and you can't do that, of course, now.
The other thing I noticed as well is without running a PowerShell script, the modern IE has gone.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think even just because you can switch back on the old start screen, can't you? And even then, I don't think it comes back.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, switching on the old start screen just doesn't really give you much at all, other than the start. It's laid out like the old start screen, but you don't get all the functionality of the old start screen. So, which I think is a shame in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because I mean, I sometimes use the desktop Internet Explorer on my Lumia, and it's really is not touch friendly. So they definitely need to do something there.
Yeah.
But I mean, the one thing this doesn't include, which has been rumored, is that final Windows 10 build will have Internet Explorer 12 in it.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be touch friendly anyway. So from what I'm hearing, so
yes, I suppose that would be the way to do it, rather than having two browsers. Is just have one browser that works.
Yeah.
With those, and I think that's the aim of this Windows 10 in general, isn't it? Is to have whatever you're doing at that moment to work the best with that sort of hardware that you're currently using.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if for example, the next version of IE happened to be a universal app in some way, with the Windows 10, you could use it on the desktop as well. So it would kind of make sense.
But again, it's another criticism that Windows 8 has had thrown at it. You've got two browsers and which is which. And I've noticed my kids get confused by it, even on the Surface. So where you think they would be using the sort of full screen one. So it does make sense to try and simplify it, certainly for desktop users.
Yeah.
But I found in general that it's been very stable, and basically I think the biggest change for me is store apps are now just they work as you can have them alongside your existing apps, and that's something that you couldn't really do before that you went into one. Before what you've got now on the Windows 8.1 and looking at it on a Surface is essentially a touch OS. It works great for that, and then you've got the option of flicking to the desktop as a last resort. Windows 10 on a laptop is the opposite way around. It integrates the touch stuff and makes it useful for the mouse. I found that menu, the action menu, I don't know what it's called, that's the app commands menu. I'm not sure that's how they're going to implement that finally. It just looks a bit weird. That's where you get this little drop-down menu with the three dots next to the program icon, and then you've got your share, play. What were your charms, aren't they, really?
Yeah, I think...
It's a bit of a weird... I'm not sure whether that's the best way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you can still right mouse and get the app bar up, can't you? But say it's I think
it is discoverable though. So
yeah, that's very. I mean, and to be honest, so many modern apps. I mean, Next Gen Reader is a good example. They've kind of integrated the share and the settings into the actual user interface.
Yeah, so quite a few apps have done that, haven't they?
Yeah, so maybe that's kind of something that we'll maybe see more and more as that just becomes part of the standard application interface.
And the other thing I found as well, which is a little strange, is trying to resize the store apps. Sometimes you get the hand or the drag icon to resize them, and sometimes you don't, and it's a bit strange. It seems to be a little bit hit and miss what options you get for resizing the window. So it's either you open an app and it's full screen, so you minimize it, and then it's sort of 3/4. And sometimes I get the mouse pointer to show that I can drag it up or down to resize it to make it bigger or small or whatever. And sometimes it's not there. It seems a little bit hit and miss.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things I've had is the mouse completely disappear for about 5 minutes, and it comes back. Keyboard works, everything else works, but the mouse has disappeared.
It's weaning you off it.
Yeah, yeah, not allowed a mouse anymore.
Yeah, come on, you've been using that for years. You can use something else now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are things that I think they need to polish, and it is still only a tech preview. But I'm surprised how well the Metro apps, the store apps work. I've tried my Flickr Upload app, and when I designed that, I wrote that primarily for the Surface layout, but then I also designed it so it would run in landscape or portrait and on an 8-inch tablet. And those design decisions that I made actually affected how it works when you start resizing it in Windows 10. So for developers, I don't know about what you think, Gary, but it seems there's not too much of a shock when you use it.
Did you implement Snap View in your app?
No, what I did on that is look at the width and resize depending on the width. Yeah. So I use columns really. There's a couple of little glitches, but I tend to optimize it between landscape and portrait.
Well, because what I've noticed is several of my apps I did actually implement Snap View, and they don't actually snap. yeah, I've noticed there's other apps like Weave Reader and that do snap. So I'm quite sure what you need to do to make it happen in Windows 10. But
Yeah, because mine snaps, but I didn't implement it separately.
So maybe that's the thing. Maybe if you've implemented Snap, it doesn't snap. But if you haven't implemented Snap, it snaps.
Which makes
snap, crackle, and pop.
Yeah, makes obvious sense. But I guess for developers, it's early days yet, and we can find it won't be that long. I mean, sometimes I noticed on mine, sometimes the logic would say when you're very, very narrow, you're either in snap view or you're in portrait, but you're not in either. But it still seems to wrap around. But you just get the scroll bar anyway, so it's not too bad actually. I think apps will work well even without any changes on them. But that's the key thing to me for this is that how well everything sort of sits together. They've managed to not totally isolate. They've managed to not.
To lose that completely. I think you can resize the start menu so you can whereas you kind of lost the My Documents and everything, they're kind of sitting snapped to the top, pinned rather to the top of the start menu. So I really can't see while there is going to be a difference. I think most people will be able to adapt to this, unlike really what we had with Windows 8.
Yeah. I think I could give this to a normal user of Windows 7, and they would say, "What's these things here?" But they would soon get their heads around the tiles, and they would be working fine. I couldn't do that with Windows 8.
Yeah,
and that's the difference, really. And that's what Microsoft's been aiming to do. They've sort of bring it together.
I think it works extremely well for the enterprise solution. I think it does it ticks the boxes. I think there's still a few things to be ironed out, and I'm sure they will over time. I think one of my pet hates at the moment is the file browser on the modern apps.
Yes, it opens in a separate window. It's weird.
Yeah, and you can't do anything in it. Whereas desktop apps, you can right-click and create a new folder and things. And this used to annoy me anyway on when it was start screen. It was one of the few things in Windows 8 I really didn't like was the File Explorer, because you couldn't actually create new folders, you could copy things, all the things you can do, and has been one of the real powers of Windows over the years. You could that within the file picker you could actually do some manipulation. And this is even worse online. So hopefully I'll sort that out. I've seen a lot of feedback for that one.
What would be nice to see as well, I mean, when they come to the tablet UI, is a modern file browser.
Yes, a proper modern file browser.
One. a full Explorer for the system.
Yeah. So the other thing, I think, from developer point of view, I'm wondering if they're going to be a bit more open on what you can actually do in the with the APIs and things on modern apps, and maybe open it up a bit further.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that there will be more than just what we call store apps, the .NET packaged XAML apps available to put in the store. I'm not sure how they're going to implement this.
Yeah, well, I think I don't know if they can do that or not, but that makes perfect sense. I mean, they already have non-store apps in the store at the moment, but you just can't buy them. they're sort of there as you might like this. Go off to the website to have a look at it. But I could see that. But it's more whether if they expand the idea of what you can actually do with a universal app, so maybe unlock it slightly in some cases.
Yeah.
With user permission, of course, but I mean, I think the store app was really locked down for understandable reasons. They wanted to make sure it was a seamless experience. But from an enterprise point of view, that makes store apps virtually useless.
Yeah.
Because you can't. I mean, it's like, you want to do a barcode scanner. Well, you can't really integrate with your barcode scanner in your system very easily. Still, Apple, as you found out, you can't use third-party APIs and things
Yeah.
that easily. So I think that there's a need to allow that more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that will happen.
They are on about sort of having better ways for enterprises to make their own apps into the store. But in fact, mentioned barcodes. I'm working on an app, stock taking app for our warehouse at the moment, and your choice is, do you go with a Windows Store app and side load these things? But then there's a massive amount of limitations to talk to an AS400 or whatever.
Yeah.
But the barcode API and the camera API is actually quite good.
Yeah.
But the other option is to go with a normal desktop app, have full access to the system and talk to the AS400, but you get rubbish camera controls. So hopefully they'll sort that out as well.
Yeah.
Do you notice some of the the thing as well? The UI has been changed slightly. I don't know whether this is the final UI, but there's no borders down the left and right of screens now, so you get a very sharp edge with a bit of a drop shadow. It kind of gives you a cleaner look.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the point. They're trying to get a cleaner look, aren't they? All the time. It's not quite as flat as it used to be, though.
Yeah. And there's sharing as well. Not if you could share. There's now a share button from Explorer that will share. A bit like the share charm, where you can right click on something and do the share.
Yeah.
One thing I've sorry, I've just been clicking around while you guys are talking, and when you go into taskbar properties, so when you right mouse click the start bar, choose properties. Sorry, taskbar, not start bar. Choose properties on the start menu tab where you've got customize. It looks very different from the Windows 7 and almost the Windows 8 era. It's now much more simpler, much more easier to pin things to the top of the start menu. Whereas before you could kind of add and remove control panel, but then there was all sorts of funny options about, show it on the start menu, show it as a hyperlink, show it as a expandable menu, which I'm sure to most people is just completely confusing. Whereas now they've just got simple options of turning on those context menus, but just a very simple list of checkboxes where you can pin what you want onto the start menu. Although I'm slightly confused because my documents is unticked, but it is on my start menu. And when I ticked it, I just ended up with 2 documents showing.
Yeah, I think I suppose they've still got some overlap of maybe 2 ways of doing it and find which one gets the best feedback and do it that way.
It's definitely much neater. I mean, even I used to look at that and get confused every time I was setting up a new PC. It was just so overwhelming, the number of options. Whereas I think it's definitely much neater now, much simpler.
Now, you mentioned about Windows Media Center. We still don't know whether Windows Media Center is going to be available in Windows 10, but it does work, Windows Media Center. A few people tweeted me with I think Jonathan Hill, actually, regular in the chat room. He tweeted me a picture of Windows Media Center running under Windows 10, complete with TV playback as well. So that works. And the way you've got to do it to get it working, and you've got to be careful with this, is you do it exactly the same way as you did with Windows 8. So you got Windows 8 and then you wanted Media Center. You go to add features to Windows, ask you whether you've got a key or you want to buy a key. You can't buy a key because it doesn't have the option yet. So you enter your key, and if you use the key that you got when you purchased your Windows Media Center pack for Windows 8, that key works. And it then goes off, does a reboot, and Windows Media Center's there. All the features that seem to be there that you'd expect. It's the same build by the looks of it that was in Windows 8 or 8.1, and it works fine. It does do a couple of things to your system, though. First, it now thinks you're running Windows 8.1 with Media Center. So if you look in the system properties, it thinks it's Windows 8.1. So I don't know what that issues that could cause you going forward trying to get updates and things like that.
Yeah.
The other issue is if you use the product key of an existing system that you've not graded, so you've still got running effectively. So this is on a clean install on a second machine, say, it knows you've activated this key already, so you can't use the key. So then it says, oh, well, please use another key. And unless you've got another key, then you can't activate it because there's no other way of activating it, and you can't request a key. So you could come unstuck with that. So just be careful. So it works okay on the machine that you've upgraded. So Gary, I think you upgraded your machine that had Media Center on. So if you got the key that you used to put Media Center on, it should put it back. But I just don't know what the long-term implications are of that.
No, I suspect we won't get upgrades. So that's one of the reasons I'm not doing it on new builds. I mean, the other thing is that problem with the upgrade, the Windows key existed before. If you haven't had in Windows 8, if you did the upgrade date and tried to use a key, and used a key which wasn't used elsewhere, you then got locked into, you couldn't get back to being a non-media center, and you couldn't activate.
Yeah,
there's no way back.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a Windows 10 thing, but
No.
But I've definitely heard rumours that the upgrades don't work properly when you've got the Windows 8.
I think Jonathan got it working, but it could be, they're just. I think he did an in-place upgrade and then entered the key back in.
Yeah, that'd be worse. Sorry, not something like that. I'm talking about the updates. To the preview program. So when they get the next release out, I suspect it may not work on once you've got Media Center installed. But you could always you could always do a full install, I guess. I don't know, do another upgrade.
Well, all I did was I just did a clean install again because this was a test. I had only just tested it, and so I just did a clean install. In fact, the test machine did actually come up with the Windows did not start properly. And it's got the option of restart or advanced settings. So I clicked on restart, and it went away for 20 minutes and seemed to fix something and come back on. But anyway, my initial impressions are it's great, and I will definitely put it on all my devices that aren't tablets. So in other words, Surface I'll stick with the modern UI, but for my laptop at work and and this machine I'm recording on now that is a desktop, then I definitely want I want Windows 10 on there.
Yeah. I won't be updating my Lumia. Not till next year, anyway.
No.
Yeah, you want to get the new build.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just cutting the time, so we'll talk more Windows 10 as we get to use it. But I think so far so good.
Yeah.
What else do I want to mention? I'll tell you one thing. I don't post on this, but I did see a couple of tweets going around earlier this week that there might be a Surface 3 on the verge of being announced.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. So another RT one.
Yeah,
that's quite interesting.
And actually, a colleague at work was trying to get Surface 2 because they really like my Surface 2 and didn't need the Pro 3, but liked the Surface, so they tried to buy one from the Microsoft store. And the 32 gig, which was on sale at $249, is sold out. So I said, "Oh, you'll have to go for the 64 gig." I think it was $349, but that's also sold out now. So the only Surface 2 available on the Microsoft store is the LTE version. So I wonder if that's a sign that the stocks are gone and we've got a new one on the way, or whether they're just not bothering anymore.
Well, I've certainly heard rumours as well. So I think we probably have got something else coming. I mean, they don't seem to be giving up on RT from a few things I've heard. So
yeah, I mean, it would be an ideal to have a Surface 3. I suppose. What did I see? The tweet said something like it's slimmer, lighter, slightly longer battery life than the Surface 2. So if they keep the keyboard the same as well, it'd be nice. Be a nice little upgrade. I still like a Surface Pro 3, but I love the long battery life and everything on the Surface 2. So might be a good device. Oh, and the other rumours, there's also the Mini could be back on the scene.
A re-engineered Mini.
Yeah. What about a Lumia 3520?
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I don't think you're going to see that.
No. Well, I think I'd find it hard to give up my Lumia, even if however attractive the Surface 3 might be if it comes along. I think I'd find it hard to give it to my little Lumia. I just so much prefer the form factor.
Yeah, I noticed PC World and PC World Couriers have got the Lumia on this. They have a Windows section with the Surface 3 and the Surface Pro 3 and the Surface 2, and now they've got the Lumia as well.
It seems to be. I've noticed in John Lewis they don't seem to have the red so much anymore.
No, it was black, and actually it doesn't look as nice in black. I think the red makes it look different.
Yeah. I think the red's the only one I would ever have gone for.
Yeah, no, it does, especially in the red keyboard cover. I was just gutted when the Lumia 930 wasn't available in red. That was going to be my matching pair.
Yeah, it's just a shame. You could have had to get maybe they'll bring in that a 2520 in orange.
Yeah.
On green.
One thing I've noticed though is the Surface 3 Pro 3 is selling well
Yeah, it is
and
definitely.
getting good
Yeah.
feedback. And I've seen people on my Facebook friends that are ardent MacBook users saying, "Oh, I really like the Surface Pro 3. I'm going to get one of them." So it is doing the job as a sort of flagship. So it'd be nice to have a
And good
3
advertising as well. They've actually got the marketing for it right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm going to be looking to get a Surface Pro 3 as my work machine at some point, and it'll be an interesting voyage for me to see whether or not I still find a use for the Lumia. Whether or not that will still be kind of my couch tablet, or whether or not the Surface Pro 3 will just become an all-rounder. And then perhaps I don't even need a Surface 3, but at the same time, there's a part of me that thinks a Surface Pro 3 with a Surface Mini would be an ideal combination.
Perfect. Yeah, that's originally what I thought.
I
think
while we're on the subject of tablets and things, I mentioned this Switch 10 the other week.
Yeah,
I'm really impressed with that.
The Microsoft Store is selling that now.
Yeah, I don't see. I can see why, because it's a really good bit of kit. I mean, GitHub though said Atom processors have come a long way, but that really has. I mean, it's lightning fast. It really gives my Surface Pro 2 a run for the money. In terms of speed, it just works really, really well, and it's a nice form factor. I think the only slight problem is, and it's a problem that the Surface would have if it didn't have the kickstand, is it's very top heavy. But at least you can use it as just a straight laptop with a very thin keyboard. So it works well. It's a really good Surface competitor.
Yeah, it does look nice actually. It's not that expensive either.
No, and I think that when the Pro 11 comes out, the Switch 11 comes out, which is going to have the Core M processor in it, that's going to be an interesting piece of kit. Yeah,
I definitely like the look at that. I was going to try and see if we can get a review of those.
Yeah, definitely going to be good. But the Switch 10, I certainly recommend people have a look at it if they want to have a look at something in that market, because the price of them at the moment is really good.
Now, the other thing I want to talk about tonight is a system that is familiar to many listeners. In fact, I first saw the Plex guys at CES, 2008, something like that, a long while ago. Plex was, I think I'm right in saying, is a fork from XBMC, wasn't it, at some point? I know it's been a lot. It's now proprietary, but I'm sure it was based on that at some point. But it's Plex, if you don't know, it's a media system, media server. You install on your server, and then there's clients for iOS, Android, Windows Phone. It's a universal app, actually. And they've launched today, in fact, a Xbox One app, which is a bit of a surprise, really, because this is the first third-party media player for the Xbox One or the Xbox 360.
Yeah, very interesting stuff.
So the key thing about this really is it's a client for your own network system. So you're not sort of consuming from Netflix or the Xbox Store or iTunes or whatever. This is for people, many enthusiasts like us, who have a server on the network with their own content on, be it ripped or downloaded content or whatever, music video, pictures as well. So it suddenly turns the Xbox One into a much more friendly media device than it was previously for enthusiasts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not a user of that software, but certainly it's interesting the way they are going with the Xbox One in terms of integrating with essentially something that you need another bit of software running on your network to actually fully use. Yeah,
there was a time when that was really sort of frowned upon. I think even many store apps from Windows stores used to get rejected for that reason.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's a sign of things to come, because that's one bit of freedom I would really like to see them bring into the licensing structure.
Yeah. So with this, you need to have a Plex server running, which I've got Plex installed on my VideoBox server. So I got it all set up last night. So I already had that set up with all my movies on there, and it has the auto ripping functions. So I installed the Plex server on there. And then on the Xbox One, you just download the app. You find it in the store. Now, currently, it only works for Plex Pass subscribers, which is a sort of $4 a month subscription, where you get the new features first. But they are going to make it available as a purchase. So I think it'll be a couple of quid I don't know, the price of the Windows app, I think it was £3, something like that. So
Yeah. That seems to be their going rate, doesn't it? £3 to £4.
So it's coming soon, they said, so I'm going to do a review of it. I may have to subscribe to the Plex Pass for a month to get so I can do the review. But I'm definitely going to do a review because the media player app for Windows, that's the sort of the beta version that's shipping at the moment, is DLNA and local storage, and it's okay, but it is a media player. Whereas Plex is a proper UI with a library. It's like My Movies or Media Browser with the clients. You can browse your collection. You can view metadata and browse by actor and all that kind of thing. So it's a proper media client, and then it should stream down. I tested some of the streaming and it works really well. You need to have a sort of an MP4 or MKV version of the file that you want to watch. And I got streaming onto my phone, no problem. And that's a universal app. It works on the Surface as well. So I think it's going to be great, and it's great to see Microsoft embrace the third-party media player, and also Plex have got a great reputation for sort of doing clients as well on our iOS and Android and everything else. So it's a great way of pulling that ecosystem together, and maybe another example of a more pragmatic Microsoft.
Yeah.
And something that really benefits enthusiasts. So anyway, so if you've got, or if you've already got Plex, you'll find it. If you go on the Xbox One, you'll see it there. But like I said, you need a Plex Pass subscription currently. But I imagine it won't be that long before it gets opened up.
At the moment, my Xbox One's dominated by Forza Horizon 2.
Yes, I challenged you the other night.
Did you?
Yes, yeah. I had a little race with you, and I beat you. So.
Oh, fantastic! We need to get a TDL team together, don't we?
Yeah, it's great. We haven't got time to talk about it, but I'm enjoying it. It's a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. Should have been based in Great Britain though.
Yeah, it should have been. I mean, actually, I have to say that's one of the few racing games I've seen recently, which actually I quite like the look of.
It would be nice in Britain, but racing through southern Italy and Nice or in France, it's preferable probably to going through Birmingham, around the one-way system in Birmingham. Maybe it's a bit more exciting.
Yeah. One thing is, sorry, I know we're running out of time, but one thing is going to be my brother-in-law is one of the investors in the crowd-funded game Project Cars, which is obviously coming out quite soon. So it's going to be interesting because obviously that's had a lot of people beta testing it and really getting the physics engine just right. So it'll be interesting to see what the reviews are like on that one.
Yeah, I mean it's very arcadey Horizon, but it's fun. It's fun, definitely fun.
Yeah, just don't use the bumper cam when you're driving through fields.
But it's quite good. You're driving along and then you see, database Jason. In fact, my son was driving it and I said, "Who's that?" I said, "Oh, that's that's the guy I do the podcast with." "Oh, right." So it crashed into you, sir. Right. But the other story I just want to fit in before we go is VLC on Windows. It's a bit of a saga, really, isn't it? But it's been going a long time. The new version of the app was released last week, so there's an all new look and feel to the app, but it's still only for Intel versions, and the ARM and Windows versions are still in development. But a good looking app now. Yeah,
I saw the screenshots in your post, and it definitely looks like a really good looking app. It's just one of those apps that makes me really nervous that if that's the sort of app that's really difficult to develop on Windows RT, it kind of makes you wonder, are apps that we want not appearing? Because actually, as Gary's often said, it's actually certain things you want to do, and you can probably do on iOS and Android that you just, at the moment, the APIs just don't exist.
Yeah, there seem to be some things they're having to write themselves, and I noticed the developer at one point sort of put a tweet out saying, God, he hates Objective-C, because I think he was porting some of the iOS code to RT. So,
because there was I think I saw a comment about Microsoft haven't got an ARM compiler or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that was completely over my head. Come on, Gary, fill us in.
What's that mean, Gary?
They haven't got an ARM compiler, which is quite amazing actually, because you think about it's actually running on ARM RT, but it doesn't need an ARM compiler because everything's done to intermediate code, so you're not writing anything native. So, so you don't actually need to. So, and how did it ever get anything written with compiled to native code through this store. I really don't know.
Yeah, because so when I write one of my apps, I don't
Yeah.
compile it for ARM. I just write it in the
Yeah.
Visual Studio and it spits out an ARM binary.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's not even an ARM binary, is it? Because it's just a binary that you upload to the store.
Yeah.
And then it goes off. It's a package, I should say, and then it sort of sorts out the right version.
Yeah.
Right. What else want to fit in before we go?
I had a question actually. I'm sure this is just going to be one of those things that turns into an urban myth, but Gary might have some insight. I saw a rumor that the reason why they didn't go with Windows 9 was because there was software out there that checks for, instead of checking the Windows version number, actually checks the Windows string. And so software looking for Windows versions that start with Windows 9, as in Windows 95 and 98, had an issue. And that's why they couldn't go with Windows 9.
It's I don't think it's an urban myth because I've actually seen code do it. It should never have been done like that because they shouldn't have been checking the Windows string at all. But I have actually seen software do it, and there are certainly some packages out there which definitely do it. So I think it may. I doubt if it's as big as some people are making it out to be in terms of numbers, but it could have been a reason.
Yeah,
so it certainly could have been a reason.
Because the reason why I was a bit skeptical is, is there was software written for Windows 95 that would still run on Windows 8.
Well, there was
Windows
actually
10 rather.
There was a lot of stuff written in the XP days, which had to be made backward compatible with 95 and 98. I do remember a lot of stuff back then because it was only a few tweaks you had to make, but they were important tweaks to make. And
I think Ray also tweeted that he wrote it. It's in one of the Lotus Notes clients, or was it something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of places where it's been done, and some pretty big corporate systems which may well still be in use have it in. So I can imagine that if they did have it as Windows 9, and that they may have done some pre-testing with certain people, that might well have thrown up its ugly head, and may well be one of the reasons that they went that way.
You think after Y2K, us developers would learn our lessons, but I guess we'd have a W9 to tend with.
Yeah. Now, a couple of things just before I finish off. Rennie Phillips sent us a really good email about a topic for future show for sort of replacement for Media Center. So we'll spend a bit more time on that next week. But James Duncan also sent me a message in saying that he had a period of time where, the vanity URL for Windows Home Server, sort of iandixon.home server or whatever you decide to use, that stopped working for a while, although it seems to be working again now. And he asked the question, and we can ask, so maybe someone can help us with this one to discuss next week, is what happens when Microsoft finally pull the plug on that? Are there alternatives?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
there are, but
so there are. So remind me next week, and we'll discuss that then, James.
I'm just trying to think actually, because I think I actually used to just set up my own URL, but maybe that probably didn't work with the security certificates, I guess.
Yeah, well, I am still using homeserver.com for one thing, and I noticed the downtime as well, but it just seemed to be downtime rather than getting rid of it. So, yeah. But we've always said this: is anything which is on the end of support, live support, they can pull those things at any time. So, guide data
for a solution. Yeah, and hence that's why the question about Media Center. So we can talk about that. Oh, and I just also want to quick one more thing. Congratulations, Gary, on your MVP renewal.
And congratulations on yours.
Yeah.
yours is impressive. 10 years.
10 years. Yeah, it seems a long time.
5 years for me, I thought was impressive, but 10 years for you is really impressive.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you both.
Yeah. Sorry, Jace.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I don't mind. I'll just be a normo.
You're a normal slice of the audience.
Actually, it's quite useful having Jason on the show, though, isn't it? Because he can talk about things we can't talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we go silent when you're talking about things, that's usually because we can't talk about them.
Yeah. Talking about talking, are we still meeting up next weekend?
Oh, got a problem with that, but I was going to send you an email.
Okay.
I've got to change the date, so I'll sort that on I'll send you an email. But so yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. Was there many people signed up?
There was a few, yeah. So I think we may have to look at the venue and location, and everything else, because a few people were put off by the having to pay the entrance fee, which is fair enough. But obviously, the museum's got to keep going, so we'll have to have a look at that.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that probably next week then. Okay, well, we're out of time, so that was good stuff. So we'll talk more again on Windows 10 next week. So Jason, just remind us where we can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at DatabaseJace.
And Gary, whereabouts are you?
On Twitter at Gary WMA, and also at fascinationtech.com, which hopefully by the time this show goes out, the next issue will be out, and you can win yourself a spare one mobile phone, and which comes with its battery included, and it's only a little AA battery.
Excellent stuff. Right, I'll include that in the show notes. So I'm going to go back and carry on playing with my Windows 10 machine.
Excellent.
And we got through the whole show without me closing Skype.
Yeah, well done.
done.
Right, and now I'm going to close Skype. But I can't. Oh, yes, I can. It's easier nowadays. See you next week.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.